This
Get ready to start.
conference will now be recorded.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have any volunteer with the prayer? How'd I do
I'll do it.
Okay.
Thank you, Lord, for allowing us to be here and making this day for us so we could come and do the business of the county. We just ask that you clear our minds that we might be receptive of what we have here today, Lord, and you guide, lead, and direct us as you would. Lord, we remember those that have with sickness and especially the bereaved in our community. It seems that we've had so much of it lately. We just lift those families and those individuals up to you. Pray that you touch them in a very special way. Forgive us, Lord, for all of our shortcomings and where we fail you. For us in Christ's name we pray all things. Amen.
Amen. Let's all stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. We have before you an agenda. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make one addition to briefly discuss building permit fees.
Tim?
I'm good.
Eugene?
I'm good.
Tony?
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anything else, Steve?
No, sir.
Bert?
I'm gonna
Okay.
approve the agenda, Mr. Chairman, with addition.
Second that motion.
It has been motioned and second. All in favor by the show of hand? Okay, that agenda is approved. All the old agenda were emailed to everybody. What's the pleasure of the board?
That's so moved.
Old minute, yeah, the old minute. Okay. Yeah.
That's so moved. Second.
Okay, it has been motioned and second. Do we have any discussion of the old minute? If not, all in favor by the show of hands, that motion carries. All right, Mr. Steve is on you now.
Let's see here. We hope to have the financial report ready for the next board meeting. Item number 3, we still have a vacancy on the Board of Health. We'll keep that on the agenda till someone comes up with a nominee. Item number 4, on Jalapa Road, we had, if y'all remember, that's the road that got some cross drain pipe washed out back earlier this year and has been closed. That section of road has been closed for a couple of months now. We submitted a request to DOT for some financial assistance, and they have approved 90% of the project costs up to $300,000. So that won't cover if we go back with a box culvert. Talk to the engineer. He's going to try to scale it back a little bit and try to get a price on a smaller box culvert that would still suffice, and also get a price on just putting back some pipes to try to we want to be sure whatever we put back is going to handle the water, and then try to do it as economically as possible. So I'm waiting on the engineer to get back with us on that. So at least,
Steve, what kind of estimated cost that would be? Because I got blasted in the face with that a few days ago, so I want to be able to give a money figure. So I can tell him he can pay it.
The initial cost for the box culvert was about $500,000.
Okay.
So if we go that route, DOT is going to pay $300,000, and the county's got to come up with $200,000.
Okay.
So that's why we're going to try maybe some alternative options to not cost the county quite as much money.
I might be able to get him to pay the $200.
Okay.
Since he said he got to go 5 minutes out the way.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll update on the new EMS station project in Unadilla. Okay, it's everything. They're telling me everything's on schedule and on budget so far. So I had hoped to have some current pictures, but I failed to get some. So, but I think they have got it where they can secure the buildings. So they got doors up and so. And I think Chris is getting everything ready to do the wiring for all the computers and radio equipment. That's on schedule to be done next week, and then sheetrock the next week. So it's progressing on schedule for what they're telling me.
On that note, when he hired his new employees over there, did we get a chance to meet any of those guys that he hired in EMS? Did he bring them through here?
We haven't.
No, this is something to start doing.
We just started doing that, and I think that's a good idea to continue doing that.
Yeah, because I met.
You ain't never seen
And
it.
I said, man, I've been working for the county. I live in Unadilla. I moved in. I said, huh? I said, I don't remember seeing you. That's why I asked. Yeah.
Don would come and give the name, but
Yeah.
didn't introduce the folks. But Linda has came up with the idea of actually introducing them, just so y'all put a face with the name. So.
Exactly. Because I didn't know him, man.
Okay, the surplus property, the house in Unadilla that we had originally planned to make an EMS nest station. We advertised it for sealed bids, and we got none. Since then, I have been contacted by an individual that claims they're interested and willing to submit a bid. I believe Commissioner Robinson said he's been approached by somebody that's interested and willing to submit a bid. Y'all want to advertise it for sealed bids again?
They're willing to, do they know the minimum?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Give that a try. If that don't work, then we'll come back and punt again. But
yeah.
Okay. We'll get that in the works. We'll have to advertise it, and we'll try to put up what's the cheapest way to get a banner or a sign to put out there on the front that would attract more attention than just a for sale sign?
Have like one of those big political signs made up. Like
But if you already got two people interested, we'll see them put another big sign. I mean, spending money on those signs.
I'm just throwing it out for discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
You said that the minimum bid is 65. I can't believe nobody ain't jumped on. The house must be in really bad. I ain't been in there, but
It's not really in that bad
Not
shape.
really bad, a couple floors and
A couple spots on the floor. but other than that,
$65,000.
spots in the ceiling.
It's old. You don't go through it. It's old.
Yeah.
the land and the house itself. If you go 5 or 6 miles of the road, you're gonna pay almost 3 times that amount for that same house.
All right, well, we'll see what we can do with that. SPLOST 2530. Okay, we had our initial meeting with the municipalities to talk about the current SPLOST expires December 31st, 2024, the end of next year. So everybody was in agreement that we would like to get the voters to approve another 6-year SPLOST for the years 2025 through 2030. And the group tentatively agreed on the proposed, I need to hand stuff. Sorry, I got stuff to hand out here now. Pass one of those around, please.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. He don't need one. Pass that out. He don't need one. I can't read. He can't read no way. Well, like I say. Okay, what the first page you got there that's the paperwork 6 years ago when we were planning the 2019, 2024 SPOS. And the first thing we had to do was come up with the revenue estimates. And at that time, for the 6-year period, our projected revenue estimates was $8,700,000. So the other night, we made our revenue projections for the proposed new SPOS. They totaling $10,400,000. So what's that? $1,700,000 more projected revenue estimates. And of the current SPOS, of that $8,700,000, Dooley County's portion was $6,525,000. So we had to come up with projects totaling $6,525,000 to put on the ballot for the voters to approve. And back 6 years ago, we came up with courthouse administrative offices renovations, $250,000. EMS equipment facilities, $250,000. Fire department capital expenditures, $500,000. Jail bond payments, $750,000. Library capital expenditures of $50,000. Recreation department capital expenditures, $150,000. In road, streets, and bridges, $4,575,000. So it appears if SPOS continues like it's going, we're going to exceed our revenue projections for the current SPOS to the tune of maybe $400,000. So what's going to happen when we collect the $8.7 million of projected revenues that the voters approved? Once we hit that, which I'll anticipate that to happen probably about next September, then any additional revenues for the remainder of 2024, you can no longer use those revenues for any of these SPOS projects because you have met your budget for those SPOS projects that the voters approved. The law says then any excess revenues goes to the county to be used to pay county debt. So, and we have some outstanding debt, the ABM project loan, and we have a bond issue, an outstanding bond issue. So there won't be any problem with us spending that money. It's just that none of these projects will get any money once they've gotten their allotted, their budget. So like I said, so the other night we came up with our projected revenue estimates and we agreed on how they would be distributed. So of that $10,400,000, the county will get 75% or $7.8 million. So the county's got to come up with $7.8 million of projects to put on the ballot. And all I did, these are just the ones from last time. You don't have to do any of these. You can do totally different projects. You're not the slate's clean. You can distribute that $7.8 million ever how you want to for capital expenditure projects. So at some point in time, we need to work on this. I'm not saying right now, but that's one of the next steps we need to do. So, all right.
Can we get of the ABM debt, the bond debt and stuff that will come due during all this? Can we get what those?
Get an amortization schedule. Yeah. That should be fairly easy to come up with. Okay. It's 9:15. Mr. Granville, you want to come up?
Yeah. Y'all can let me get through and then y'all can add it.
Okay, take a seat, Mr. Granville. I was gonna say something before we got started.
All right.
Okay.
And you ready?
Yeah, just 1 second. before we get started, we want to make sure that all your comments be directed to me, and then I shoot it to
Okay, no problem.
the commissioners, or to Steve, or to the attorney down there.
I ain't got no problem.
That way we can control everything that goes on.
Well,
And we're going to
soon
try to
as I
conduct the meeting.
get through here, I gotta go have my pacemaker checked. So,
Okay.
all right. The other day when we had the meeting, I waited till Steve got through. And then I come up and I can put me on the agenda. Now I heard through the grapevine that some of them talking about a letter. I've been waiting on it to violate my civil right. See, 'cause I have a right. And Michael Bond from the city and all of them ain't gonna tell me what to do. He ain't got nothing to do with the county. And if you want to write me a letter why I can't come, I done had my lawyer one time. I ain't coming back here no more. 'Cause the justice ain't coming.
Okay.
And now, let me
Let's get to you.
All right. My daughter, we study getting that woman money. Public funding. My daughter been in jail ever since last August. This August will be a year for a misdemeanor. You know, we got 26 elected officials in Dooley County. By Mean, Tom Shaw, and Manuel. We got 26 elected black officials. Now start counting them up. What I'm saying is this: we paying that lady the money instead of she taking care of what she supposed to take care of. She goes down to make sure my daughter stay in jail. She goes down to Val Austin, hire a lawyer, and she ain't seen him in a whole year. She been locked up for a whole year for a misdemeanor. The lawyer ain't even been up there. Yeah, I'm mad. And it ain't right. But that's all right. See, God sent y'all the stick so you can wave it or you can throw it down. See, talking about me and all. See, Jesus on the main line. I ain't worried about what nobody say or what they do. Jesus gonna take care of me. Come with his children, just like Moses. See, until you get with Jesus and do right, ain't nothing gonna happen.
Keep it to the point.
But and now just wait before the end of this year and see what happens. Yeah, hit on the way, help on the way. But now I want y'all to know you can study getting her money, and she ain't doing nothing with it. She ain't doing nothing with it. The only time she see them boys is when she get over there in the courthouse. Then she go back there. My daughter won't plead guilty, so she go back there and tell them to plead guilty and bring 8 or 9 of them out there at one time. You know that's not right. If you my lawyer, you supposed to come to the jail to see me and wake up my case. What kind of law is that? I know what it is. You do too. That's black law. All right, I'm through.
Mr. Steve, just to clear one thing. Now, the money that we give the public defender,
Yes, sir.
is it for her salary?
It's for the operation of the office. The 4 counties in the Cordell Judicial Circuit provide additional funding to help with the office expenditures, is what I understand it to be.
Okay, then. Let's move on.
Okay.
All right.
Item number 8, we have started the process for developing next year's budget. I have sent out the budget worksheets to all the different departments. I've asked for them to be in by tomorrow, and we'll get that process started. one of the first things we need to do as a board, let me get past this, I didn't mean to put that in there again, is we can actually go ahead and start looking at the revenues. And so I would suggest maybe if this meeting doesn't drag out too long, maybe have a real brief work session so we can start looking at the proposed revenues for next year. Let's get past that for now. Item number 9, you may have seen a notice in the paper. The Dooley County Board of Commissioners will be holding a public hearing at Dooley County Commission office on Thursday today at 2 p.m. for the purpose of discussing a proposal to finance a new ambulance. The Dooley County Commission, blah, blah, blah. After talking to Scotty Mashburn with the Economic Development Council, and I asked him to get with Middlefield, it used to be Middlefield RDC, this River Valley Regional Commission, to see if there was any grant opportunities to help us. You know, we got a new ambulance on order. It's due to COVID issues, it's still several months away. USDA has a program that we might could get some funding for. So this public hearing this afternoon is just part of their application process. Y'all are not required to be there. The guy from River Valley will be here, Scotty will be here, and I'll be here. And most likely nobody else is going to show up. It's just one of the steps in the process. We're not guaranteed to get any funding, but you are guaranteed to not get funding if you don't apply. So this is a fairly simple application. So I said, let's try. The worst thing they can do is say no. So
You saying I know we got one on back order. And so we're applying for.
No, this is to help us pay for the one that's on back order.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
We're not talking about getting another one.
All right.
So we're just talking about trying to help get some assistance with that one. Oh.
But Steve, let me ask you on that note. Well, them smaller ones that we've been getting, are they good? I mean, are they as functional as the larger one?
Evidently not, because the new one we got on order, we've gone back to the big box style.
Yeah.
I think that was an experiment that I don't think they're cheaper, but I don't think they're as practical as
Right.
It's good. It was good for your nursing home runs to carry the people from the nursing home to Chris County. You know, due to the no treatment going on, basically just getting them there. Cost of a trip, you might say, but they can't. I don't think they can do the work they want to try to do in there with the equipment they have now.
Now, Mr. William Turner, he called you to get on the agenda.
Remember, he came by that day to get on the agenda,
Okay. All right.
but I haven't heard anything else from him.
What was his agenda?
Something about Somerville Road.
I guess he had to hear from the horse of the mouth. I guess what I told him probably wasn't. I'm sure enough, but okay.
I'll try to call Derek and get him to come on, be on the way over here just in case Mr. Turner doesn't show up.
That's Keith there.
Huh?
I'm saying you got someone named Keith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over there. Yeah.
And so he talking about the road right by his house.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right in front of his house, which is a bad road. You know, but we got sort of Bert been working on that. Got the ball rolling on it, and I think I don't know. Did we ever clear up the one that passed away? Did we ever make contact with our kid?
Not yet. I think that we checked to see if there was an estate set up.
Yeah, it was something similar to that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's not. Until they do that, there's really no need to update the deeds because we have to have the name of who the administrator is going to be in order to do it, and they've got to do that process.
And I, you know, he probably understand a little bit better coming from you. that means, you know, since that's your expertise, but you just can't say something. You got to produce the facts. You know.
Well, what happens is people get upset with the process because there's somebody who's doing right and paying the taxes. And they feel like, well, since I'm paying the taxes, the county ought to do this. But the problem is the county can't, we can't go set up an estate for them. That's their business.
Right.
And they have to conduct their business like everybody else. And, you know, they don't want to do that or else they'd already done it. You know what I mean? They got family dynamics. So they want to shift that. They can't get anywhere with their family. So they want to shift it over and blame the county. And we can't receive that blame because we're not part of that family. And so once they get it straight legally, then we can address them.
They don't care how it's done, they just want somebody else to do it.
Correct. You know, these people don't realize we don't work full time. Bert, you don't work full time. They think you should be doing a lot of stuff. You don't work full time for the county. We don't work full time for the county. You better like, you know, this was a full time job for us and for Bert.
People have expectations.
Saying, no, folks don't work full time. They can't spend 20 hours on your problem when they, you know, that's you gonna pay them.
But they think they
phone ring.
didn't know the answers.
Yeah, I know.
And it can be overnight.
Yeah.
And this is something we've been talking about for the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And, at least now we made headway when we got this other fellow to sign his right of way over. I thought that was the biggest hurdle right there.
Yeah.
Now it's back on you now.
I'm having the same problems on Heath Road.
Yeah.
People just won't sign. You can't make them sign.
Right.
I mean, just what can you do?
Yeah. I've been down there a lot of times since I've been here.
For the 2 items. We already done
We already done
Yeah, they want you to
We got one, somebody added one building permits.
You eating Ken at that time.
Yeah, I recently did a building with Dolan was just talking to several contractors that I trust. One was a AC guy, one was a general contractor. And our building permit fees are a little out of line. I mean, I don't know, how were those calculated back in 19 or in 20? I mean, if your air unit goes out, and it was the air conditioning guy, if your air unit goes out to swap it out, the county makes them pull a full electrical, and I think plumbing permit, where in other counties, there's a simple fee of swapping the unit. There's a disconnect already out there, you swap it. I mean, these people that are building these $800,000 houses, after we see here, we're fixing to get the taxes out of them. We're charging an extra $5,000, $6,000 for these permit fees. We're saying we want more housing, but we're not enticing anybody. We're not reducing these fees to entice anybody to do it. I mean, I'm just being told, and I've looked and heard from folks that we are out of line. Not saying that others won't change theirs next year or whatever, but on top of we're fixing to talk about taxes that we know we're high on, we're also killing them with permit fees that, I mean, your air unit goes out, mine went out, I mean, shoot, that's a $10,000 bill right there. Now you want me to turn around and pay another $400 in permit fees? Just to swap the air unit, you have to pull the full electrical, and if there's plumbing to be ran, you gotta pull the plumbing. It's not as simple. Down in Court, it's $50, $75 to swap an air unit.
Yeah.
I just think again, I know we're fixing to talk about tax, but we're punishing people on several levels of just hitting them with permit fees. It's another thing for taxes. I'm just asking back then, who set those rates? Did we pull from other people? Did we pull from surrounding counties, or did we just start pulling out of thin air to help the budget?
Prior to Glenn coming, back when Gary Houston was here, the building permit fees that we were charging Gary's last day of work were the same permit fees from his first day of work. So they never got adjusted for the 20 years he was here. Then when Glenn came on, that's when we computerized things. And Glenn initially, from my understanding, implemented the ICC, the International Building Construction Codes or whatever. They have a recommended fee schedule. Well, he plugged that in. Well, it didn't take long to find out that was way too high. So the board reviewed and reduced those fees fairly significantly and agreed on the current schedule. What that is, I can't tell you. I have to get Glenn needs to be here to try to provide that schedule. I can get him to come to the next meeting and be prepared.
He ain't back there now?
He's out doing the inspection.
Well, my question is fees. You build a new home, how many hours of work is that for him?
He'll have to answer that.
Yeah, and how many, and all the hours, we pay him at an hourly rate. I mean, why are we trying to profit any more off of than his time of the process? If it takes 60 hours and he gets paid $20 an hour, and that's $1,200 for a new home.
But why would he need 20 hours? I mean,
I don't know how many times he goes out there doing different. He's got some paperwork. I don't know what. I'm just pulling that out.
Yeah, I know.
10 hours.
Yeah, right.
Whatever it is. Why can't we incentivize people to build homes versus?
And it's not that complicated. I mean, really, it's not. I mean, it's just not that complicated to inspect the house, and for the fees. I mean, you sort of got me with you say $400 for the.
It was $350 for something like that, and that depends on the site. It's based on value. It's based on the value of. Whereas again, a simple swap out is, what do you inspect? I mean, what you ride out there, you look at it, and even my guys did it from their phone. He didn't even ride out
electrical.
there.
I mean, if it's a simple swap out, there's nothing because you hook it right back up to everything. So it shouldn't be nothing that's costing that much. I mean, I don't understand when we talk to. Let me back up. Now we can set the fees to be whatever we want to be. This board can, So
I just want to look at it as.
But make it compatible to what everybody else is doing, and
quit burdening people to build new homes. Quit burdening them to remodel their homes. Quit burdening them to add on. I'm not saying it's a profit center. I think we've looked at that, but it's not a profit center. But it should be more of a service than
you got that right.
Than even a break even. I mean, we don't break even on fire department. We don't break even on EMS, sheriff's department. I mean, we know those aren't break even.
There was a shift in that philosophy after Gary about not making a profit, but get closer to a break even point. Because back in Gary's days, the permits were maybe 25 to 30% of the total expenditures.
No, but you had another additional staff.
But they're saying there was a shift in the board to try to get closer to a break. Nobody ever wanted to be a profit-making venture, but there was a shift at that time to get to be more of a break-even service.
I could have seen myself being on that shift. I just think with the cost and everything to everybody already on the rise, let's cut where we can. And if we talked last year or after the census came out, we needed more homes. Waive the fee. $100, whatever it is, waive the fee and get them to build.
Because to me, the most important thing, you still need inspections to make sure
Safety.
safety. Yeah, that's still needed.
Exactly.
The service side of it.
But didn't he make comparison to Macon County, which is comparable to us, Wilcox County? I think all of them sort of, they got a chart that they go by, Chris County. I can't even remember, I don't remember, and I'm not no HVAC person, but I can't remember fee costing that to change the unit. I just did remodel a house up in Perry, and shoot, for the whole house, man, it was 200 and I'm talking about that. We did everything. That's electrical and everything to do the whole house. I think it was almost $300 to do the. That's all. And then it came out, popped and looked and left.
And I'm just talking to contractors that I trust that work in different counties, and we are the highest, and we're the one we talked about. We need the growth the most. Listen, cut it back. Get people to remodel abandoned home. Let's make it go back to a service-based thing than a break even.
But can we get him? Okay, can we get him to make a comparison on what the other counties are charging along with Dooley County and see how we are in line or out of line with them? Mr. Burke.
First off, you don't have to charge anything for this.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be just a service that the taxpayers get because it's going to increase the tax base. But I would play devil's advocate on that. We've got a lot of whining and complaining about this one department. It comes up here a lot, and a lot of that's legitimate. Okay, some of it feeds itself. Okay, and some of it's created. I'll leave it at that. If you took away the fee and let the regulation go on for the consumer protection, let's take out the money, which is where the animus is right now. Everyone's reacting to the fees. Okay, whether it's too much, too little, or not enough, or just do away with it. Take that out. Are people going to comply? Are they going to come get a permit because it's free? I submit they won't. Okay, so we're really arguing about a number, and that number could be wherever you want to put it. Okay, let me put it in another context. Every now and then we hear a discussion in here about doing business licenses in the county. Aren't we going to have the same type of discussion there? Why are we doing it? What's the purpose? Because anytime government does something, it's for regulation or police powers under the Constitution. So if we're going to exercise those powers, what you do, and there's a reason for this, and it is legitimate consumer protection. For instance, if you build that $800,000 house and it's your castle, and you cut corners because you're going to live in it the rest of your life, somebody else is going to buy it because we don't live eternally on this earth. And somebody's going to get upset because it wasn't done right. And so the only person that can do that is the government to make sure that it's going to be done right, because not everybody's going to do it the right way. And if we agree that everybody's going to do it the right way, everyone's right way is going to be a little bit different. So we're in this from this board's perspective, from a policy standpoint of regulation, we need to do it. Okay. The question is, how much do you charge? And I think the fair question is, just looking at other counties, they may be looking at the county next to them, the next county next to them. So looking out to an ascertainable standard, which is a national building code, is what you would normally do. And that is way too high, because that we are not one size fits all. But where we're at is we need to have some more input in it when he brings it back in here. There needs to be some more input in it so we don't get the same question raised a year from now. What is fair is what you want. And this is never going to be a revenue maker because you don't have the volume to do it. And minus Unadilla, minus Vienna, that's the bulk of where a lot of this was. And you don't, and when those rates were set, those two were in the pie, if I'm not mistaken. All right, that's my summation of the whole conversation.
But the bottom line is, okay, I can tell you this for a fact: the services we need an inspector. I can tell you that right off the rip. Now you need one, but now the issue is again, whatever that sheet has on it, that said that what got to be charged, it's just going to be basically left up to us whether we want to go along with it or not. You know,
everything's done off valuation.
Yeah.
And what that does to folks is they'll lie about that.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're gonna reduce it down. If it was a flat base fee, they'll tell you straight up, yeah, that cost me $50,000, not $15,000, because me and my brother-in-law got out there and did it on the weekend. You know, they would be. I don't know. Just think it needs to be looked at and reevaluated based on where we are today. Not that was 2019. That was 4 years ago.
Right. It should not be a negative. It should not be a negative on that. It should not be that you put your little old lady or man with a family and kids. You shouldn't put them in the position of trying to lie in order to get air conditioner or heat in their home. I get that. But we also want that air conditioning and heat to be safe for the little old lady, otherwise. And sometimes when people don't want the government looking in, it's because they're cutting corners. I've had my own relatives do that to me in this county on electrical stuff. And our former guy caught them.
I know. So we need to get Mr. Glenn.
Get Glenn.
Yeah.
Do some background and come to the next meeting and have some information about the schedule. Okay. All right. Derek, Miss Kay, y'all welcome. You gonna sit in the audience? You're welcome to go up to the table if you want to. I just asked Derek to come to. I'm assuming everybody has gotten their assessment notices and it has generated a little bit of conversation around the county. So I got him to give me the preliminary figures in the format that we are required. This is the format that we're used to seeing, because this is the format that we're required to publish in the paper prior to setting the millage rate. But now these are all very preliminary figures, subject to change as you go through the appeal process.
Yeah.
So most likely these figures aren't going to be increasing they're just going to be most likely decreasing. Is that a fair statement?
Yes. Slightly.
Slightly. Probably no significant changes, but just gotta wait to go through the appeal process. So based on the very preliminary digest, and the way we're required to publish it in the newspaper, these top section here are gross digest figures. Last year, for real property and personal property, the gross digest was $492 million. And that is at the 40% assessed values, right?
Yes.
As of right now, the proposed preliminary digest figures is $531 million. Motor vehicles, last year was 4,134,000. This year, 4,860,000. Mobile homes, last year, 2,574,000. This year, 2,527,000. So actually it went down slightly. Timber, 7 million last year, 2.2 million this year. And how does timber doesn't really go through your office, does it?
We get the harvest notifications and we give them to Paula. That's just it. We put them in the system. We enter the data.
And now, if I own some timber land, forest land, I'm not paying property taxes on that growing timber until I sell it.
It's taxed when it's harvested.
It's taxed when it's harvested.
When we see sales of timberland, we have to extract the timber value out of the sale price in order to come up with a land value, underlying land value.
Now, I do pay taxes on the land the timber growing on every year, but I just don't pay any taxes on the timber.
Is
Okay.
it a timber severance tax?
Is it-
How is that 21 and 23 figure identical? 2208119.
I don't know. I noticed that when we were putting this together. I don't know why it's identical.
I can't answer that. Then heavy duty equipment, last year was 14,000, this year is nothing. And looking back, it bounces around. Most years it is zero. What exactly is heavy duty equipment?
It is a category of equipment and personal property that's,
Backhoe and stuff like that.
I think it is, it's heavy equipment like backhoes, excavators.
You got me with it.
But
It's
not
non-farm though, right?
Yeah, that's
non-farm,
non-farm.
not ag.
Yeah.
Are boats in that now too? Where do boats fall into?
Boats are in personal property.
It's in the real and personal property.
That's a new one too.
Okay, so for the gross digest, last year was $506 million. The preliminary gross digest this year is $540 million. The exemptions last year was $145 million. Excuse me. This year preliminary exemptions are $151 million. You get to a net digest, that's what your millage rate's calculated against. Last year it was $360 million. This year the preliminary is $388 million. So if the millage rate got left at last year's rate of 17.95, if it would generate $6,981,000 of property tax revenue as opposed to $6,463,000 last year, or be an increase of $518,000 of additional property tax revenue generated based on that revenue, that millage rate, which would be roughly an 8% increase. So the reason for the increase in the assessed values is
Sales. We started out after last year's adjustments. When I started looking at this year's digest, this year's ratios, we started out even after our increases last year. Our beginning ratio was back down to 0.32.
Wow.
Sales continued to increase last year.
When do you start? When's the cutoff? What was the cutoff date last year of looking at sales?
I start in January.
And when
But when we are audited by the Department of Audits, they will take sales from the year after your digest is set. After January 1st, they use sales all through the next year to audit what you did as far as adjustments, what your ratio was. So in my final recommendation to the board and what was approved, I included sales all the way up to March 15th. That was my cutoff. Same as last year. I used the latest possible sales I can use. Valuation date is January 1st, but we use sales from January 1st of last year all the way up to March 15th of this year. And when I'm making my adjustments, I also run a 3-year ratio for each area to ensure that change is not going to blow out a sale that was 3 years ago. It's still going to hold true for that whole time period. And that keeps us from getting too high up right now And, say if we had a 3-year-old sale, it was probably a little bit lower 3 years ago than it is right now. That it just ensures that my changes aren't too high. It'll still be valid for sales that were 3 years ago.
Does that include like new growth, new buildings, or just sales for us? Somebody sold their land or somebody sold their house?
Well, new growth is included in the changes once I do it, but normally on new growth, you don't see if a contractor buys a spec lot and builds a house and then sells it to an owner, that would be included.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody buys some land and builds their own house on it, that won't sell probably until 10 years down the road. They'll sell that house and move somewhere else. Then that house will be included in the sales.
But that valuation doesn't affect the increase in assessment for a neighboring home.
If it's a sale, it's included in. If it's a fair market sale, it's included in my ratios and it goes into the calculation.
And when you say sales, you mean like in a particular area of Dooley County or just all over Dooley County?
We use sales all over in Dooley County, but in order to make my changes, I do it in areas.
How many areas are in the county?
Let's see.
What's area growing that much? Well,
we have our areas are divided up, and this is how they were divided up when I came into the office. I haven't had time to reorganize the whole county in the way we do it. So I just used it as it existed, and have made adjustments accordingly. We have Yellowfly.
What is that?
Yellowfly Plantation, that's a subdivision down in Campers Haven area.
Yeah. I think that was probably, that neighborhood was created when that development started probably. We have River Influence, that's properties that are down by the river. Highway 41 North. Jeter's Lake. I think it was a development that kind of never did happen. But we haven't seen any sales or changes in that area.
Now, where is Jeter's Lake?
That's going to be between Lily and Byronville on the right, where Bob Jeter's brother Groves.
Okay, that little
lake, little pond.
The little pond out there. Okay.
And Ronnie Kitchens.
And Ronnie Kitchens built a house back there, but and any other development back there since.
I may just do away with that one and include that one in the county in the future. Lewis Mill area. County. That's just people that are out in the unincorporated county.
Back to the Lewis Mill area, that appears to be a lot of activity going out there.
And they got hit this year because of that.
We got hit last year.
We got hit again this year. Sale prices were even.
I'm not going to. I won't micro it right now.
Vienna, Pinehurst, Unadilla, Byronville, Lilly, Dueling, and then we have Commercial and Industrial Incorporated, which is commercial industrial businesses within city limits, and then we have a Commercial Industrial Unincorporated. That's businesses that are scattered out in the county.
So on that, if I have a building in town, a commercial building in town, let's say North 41, for example, I'm going to be rated on the sale of a commercial gas station in the city limits out on 75.
If it's in the city limits, your valuation is going to be grouped in with other properties that are in that area.
But not in the county. You were referring
But not in
to
the
out in
county.
the county, right?
If you're out,
No, I own a commercial building in Unadilla, up North 41. So if a sale of a gas station on the side of I-75 sales, that's going to affect my building. If they're both in the city limits,
your building
commercial.
Your building land price will not be the same as a property that's on I-75. because the land values are different on us. The land, we also have separate classifications for land areas. The land, his land would be priced at Pinehurst I-75 area subdivision. Yours would be in Unadilla. Now the overall adjustment will be, yours will be grouped in with a commercial property that's incorporated, and it could be in another area, but it's overall, that's the trend for commercial properties that are in these cities. That's what our adjustments are. It's these trends. His actual base land value will be different from yours, but you each will go up by whatever adjustment we make to your property, but it'll be commensurate to your land value and your building type.
I think what people complaining about is 2 years in a row, getting hit that hard 2 years in a row. I mean, like mine went up $50-something thousand last year. Then it turned around and went up again $50-something thousand again this year.
Yes.
So that's $110,000 in 2 years. You know?
How are we doing it so
Mine
quick?
went up $100,000 in 1 year in Lowndes County this year.
Yeah,
How are
that's
we
why I
doing it so
was too.
quickly? How are we doing it so quickly back to back when we used to not do this? We didn't have reevaluations every year. And how did we miss it so bad last year? If people are taking another 30, we took a 30% increase last year, we're taking another 30% increase this year. We've never seen assessments move like that in this county. How are we doing it? How are we doing it back to back where we hadn't done that in the past?
Well, in the past, we had a rural land revaluation done this year by an outside company. And this is a guy that he's one of the best in the state. He used to teach for Department of Revenue. Now he has his own company. He said there was a lot of evidence of sales chasing in the past. And sales chasing, it's something that's illegal, we're not supposed to do. What would happen was a property would sell for a much higher value than the office's value on it. The office would go in and change that value at that point to make our value commensurate with the sale price and just change the value of that property.
That one particular property.
Yes, and that's called sales chasing, and it's illegal.
And why would you do that? To keep the
To keep your ratio looking good. So then when Department of Audits came in and looked at your ratios, it looks fine because every property that's sold, you have changed that value to make it close to the sale price.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes your ratio look good. Your uniformity has completely gone out the window because all you're changing is the properties that sell.
But some of those high land sales in the rural areas, aren't they exempt? Aren't they thrown out? Are 529s thrown out?
What's a 529?
When you sell a piece of property to avoid capital gains, you have to turn around and reinvest that money.
1039.
1039, sorry.
No, we don't have any visibility on that.
Because on the 1039 to avoid capital gains, I can pay 20 to 30% higher than anybody else to avoid giving it to the IRS. And that's what a lot of this land up is. You sell something in Florida, you sell 10 acres in Florida, you can come up in by 30 for the same price. But they pay more. They're paying more for that. And
we're seeing a lot of high sales. I guess that would explain why.
But the 1039, I mean, that should be a calculation because again, they can pay up to 30% more than market because they don't want to give the money away to the IRS.
Well, when those sales become more than 50% of the sales in your county, though, that is now the market.
What happens at the appeal process? I mean, how do you determine, did the board vote, somebody come up to appeal, or how do you
The way it's normally handled is somebody comes in, files an appeal,
Mhm.
and I go out and look at the property, see if there's any adjustments that need to be made.
Mhm.
If there are, they get a 30-day notice. They can either accept the new revised value, or they can continue the appeal on to Board of Equalization or wherever they routed it to. At that time, our board likes to meet with the taxpayer, and they can come and talk to the taxpayer, and the board can vote on what they want to do with the property at that point. And then if the taxpayer is still not satisfied at that point, then it goes on to the next step.
We honestly thought that last year our ratios would be within the guidelines that's set by the state Department of Revenue. And we even made statements, to people, this is to bring us into compliance.
Mhm.
But
And they took it last year. They
Yeah.
accepted it last year.
Yeah.
but
Well, I think they will be when we get audited for last year's digest. I'm almost sure we will be within compliance for last year's
for
digest.
last year.
Why
But
can't,
But we
the
won't know
sales,
that until
yeah, we won't know that till October.
October.
why
but-
can't we hold until then?
We could, but that's putting us in a position. If we do that, our ratio, then next year when they audit this year, we're going to be low again.
Okay. And we can make it up the next year.
We
I'm
could, but it's going to be a larger increase if sales
My
continue.
only
on their way.
thing is somebody, and I take me out of the equation, but somebody that took that hit last year, they're fine with taking an increase, but they can't take that same big hit again and budget it in. And we have no power here. We can roll millage rate back to net last year, but somebody that took a 25-30% increase this year, we can't roll millage back 30% to give them their break. Some people will gain because their increase in the cities didn't go up, but the rural areas, it looks like, are going to lose or on the edge of us.
Well, a lot of the land went down with the land reval.
Well, land is protected with CUVA. They take the 3%, and homeowners can take 3%, but 30% a year is that's tough. I mean, I'm not saying people are going to have to go borrow money to pay the taxes, but
Some people may actually have to do that are on very limited incomes. I'm concerned about that.
I mean, I'm just, and I know we're probably not supposed to, but why can't we wait or do, if it is a 30% increase, give them a 5% increase and look at it again the following year and don't hit them all at, people can budget that, or they can make the 3% increase. I mean, there's a guy out on Pinehurst Bineville Road with a piece of land. They don't have the money to pay the increase in taxes on his land, and he's not protected in CUVA.
You would think next year, with what we see in last year and this year, next year would not be so violent. We don't know because you thought that this year.
Yeah, I
And
thought we
the
would be.
sales,
The sales.
prices are just,
When people flip a house over $100,000 up at Lewis Mill, it's gonna show up.
But
And that's
which year did that show up? Last year, this year? But then you're saying
well, both years, some of them have sold twice.
we're saying we take the 3-year on it, but that house, some houses ain't gonna ever get what that house got, no matter if it was listed or not. I know that's micro, and again, I'm looking at overall. I mean, there's people all over the county in all corners that have called about the increases. And there's nothing, like I said, we could roll millage rate back and net it back to what our budget was last year. But that same person that took 2-year hits, we can't help them. I mean, we're talking, what can we can do? We can help them with 8%, but we can't help them with. Is there a system where it doesn't hit them all in one or in 2 years back to back?
My job is to keep values in line with the sales. That's all the evidence I have. And we're regulated by the state on our ratio. So we could ignore this and put it off for another year, but it may be a bigger increase next year. You know, usually if you put off these changes for 2 or 3 years, then you end up with a huge increase like last year when you do change it. And then everybody loses their minds.
So did we have 40-something million that was sold this year? Or we had on the net, it was 28 million more. See what I'm saying?
No, that's net. That's the value of the overall digest.
That's
the value of the sales. I don't.
How much? We had 50-something. What is that? 50-something million.
The value of sales isn't in this sheet.
It's not in there.
No, this is total assessed value. This is the total.
But I thought all that depended on the sales, though. Well,
the sales influence the values that we put on the property.
Right.
And then the values that we put on the property, that's what determines
that's
what I'm saying.
So that's taking in new construction too, just like that apartment complex out there, that big.
So we had like $50-something million worth of. You see what I'm trying to get at?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you say, you figured off the sales and you figured off the new growth. So how you go from 492 to 531? That's what I'm saying. That done by sales, you say?
That's the new value.
That's
right,
the increase.
That's what I'm saying.
That's all the
but
houses
it's done by
are
sales, though. That's what I'm saying.
That's how they generate.
So we had that much generated in Dooley County? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
New buildings.
The sales generate.
The sales and new buildings.
His assessment that gives a new market value. And that's the
But $50-something million?
Well, that's 39 million.
On the first one, 39, and then at the end it's 20, 28.
What that amounts to is the market value of all the properties in the county went up $50 million.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. And that was determined by sales and new construction.
Yeah. That's increase in the market value of the existing properties and also additional new construction.
When you say we're regulated, we're going back to talking about
our sales ratio.
The sales ratio, but the regulation and the penalty is what's that property called?
Public utilities.
That's the regulation we're talking about.
Well, it's also having the digest locked up and you can't collect on your digest. We got a letter this past year for the 2021 digest was so low, it was at 33. We got a letter from the Department of Revenue in early this year saying that if we didn't have our ratio fixed within 3 years, then we get the next step, which is your digest is locked up. You can't collect on your digest.
So that means no taxes collected.
No taxes collected.
So no budget.
And they force you to do a total county revow. And that's when everybody's values go up 50%. Or everybody's taxes go up 50%, and they're really going crazy.
So what we're doing is we're paying for the emissions of the past.
We did that last year.
Oh, we're still.
That's how
We're supposed to stay between a 35 and 45 ratio.
You're supposed to stay between 36 and 44.
36 and 44. And last year supposedly got us to what?
38.
Is that?
But sales prices continued to increase, and that's why we have additional adjustments this year to keep us in that range.
When they do the thing in October, they're going to rescind that letter. We'll be cleared because we got back within the ratio.
We should. We'll see.
If we're within that ratio, they should.
The ratio that we calculated that we're supposed to hit 38.
Yeah.
So we'll be too over.
And 38 is what you need to collect your full public utilities.
What year did the state go away? They used to get $0.25 of your digest.
I think so.
Your taxes every quarter. That's been several
That got
years.
phased out
That's a
several
long
years
time
ago.
ago.
Several years.
They phased it out incrementally over several years, but it's been several years since they.
I want to mention the Hamburger
No.
additional food. I know they're familiar with it.
That's right.
And also this year, I'm sure you saw the letter and along with your assessment notice, the governor's additional homestead exemption. That amounts to about $620 if a person has homestead in the county. It's additional $620 off their bill. It's usually, in most of the the city limits people, it's over $800 off their tax bill.
All right, and that didn't reflect in that page 1 of the assessment notice of your
No.
projected
No.
tax bill based on, and are y'all required, is the assessment notice required to have that project your tax bill based on last year's
Yeah,
millage rate?
yeah, the assessment notice is created and regulated by the Department of Revenue. We have to use that assessment notice. There is no place on that assessment notice to incorporate that additional tax savings off of the estimated taxes that are shown on it. We are forced to send out that assessment notice. So we paid extra to have that letter sent out, letting people know there would be additional money taken off their taxes.
But you cannot
But-
touch that assessment
And I
notice.
think there's people that don't understand
I
that.
think
know.
that,
We've
but it's
got lots
just
of
for
questions.
1 year now.
Yeah, but when they see the
Unless-
final bill,
It'll make
they'll
a
see it.
difference. It'll make a difference.
And you have to have homestead to get it. A lot of people didn't understand that. But when they come in with questions, we explain it to them.
But we felt like the cost,
That's huge.
we felt like the
Mm-hmm.
cost was worth sending out that notification to, inform the people.
And to qualify for homestead exemption, you must,
You must live in the home and own it. And the home, the land, and the owner must be all under the same name.
it must
You have
be
to
your
be-
primary
It
residence.
has to be your primary residence. You can't have it anywhere else. You have to be a citizen, a Georgia resident.
And to qualify for the homestead for the 2023, you had to apply for homestead exemption by
April 1st.
April 1st.
And there are levels of homestead exemption. Like, you want to explain those?
There's your basic homestead exemption, which is everybody who owns a home. And then there's over 62. And then there's over 65. And then there's additional over 65 with income less than $10,000 a year. They
So, I mean,
they
it's
get
not much,
additional.
but it does help.
They get additional exemption.
And is there an age where you no longer have to pay school tax?
No.
I keep hearing,
If the county chooses to do it that way, you can.
all right, we
And
say
that's-
The school board.
that would be the school boards, I'm assuming.
Those are county county referendums to exempt.
But
School board would have to initiate it.
we levy.
The school, I'm assuming now,
I think that's how it works.
school
I've
board
never-
would have to request that the Board of Commissioners call for a referendum to put that question before the voters.
But it gets to their taxing authority, not ours.
Right.
But
And there's only,
But they don't have do they have a taxing authority? They have to ask us to tax.
Right.
But we can't.
I think it's passed by Board of Commissioners in counties
I
that
think
do
so.
have it. But it's
And there's
probably,
not,
but it's initiated by the,
I would
Board of
assume it's
Education.
initiated by the Board of Education and just rubber stamped by the Board of Commissioners to get it on the ballot.
yeah.
Because the voters would have to approve that, I'm assuming.
But there's only,
But we-
one or two counties in the state that
Well,
has that.
If you listen to the street talk out there's a whole bunch of counties out there that
I
you
don't
got.
think so, and I think,
Of course, the street committee don't always deal in facts.
Yeah.
There's one earlier that was back.
So make sure we get this in the paper correctly. We're about to take the money out of the schools.
Hush. Per County Attorney Burt Gregory.
No, I've already been quoted enough.
So we just having to make up for what didn't happen in the past.
Well, no, we did that last year. What we did this year was continue to follow the sales in the county for this past year. Sales values in the county continued to go up.
But were we at the 36% in the last 3 or 4 years back?
the ratio.
Were we, say again?
You know, where the value should be for the county. I know you said we should be, in order to collect tax of 36 to
44.
Right, to 44%. But I'm saying in years past, was that the case? A lot of men, we trying to catch up for what didn't happen.
Well, and I know for a fact in 2021 we weren't, because we got the letter from the Department of Revenue saying we had to fix it or else. In previous years to that, I don't know.
And I think we were below the 38%, which is required to get the total amount of the utilities, you know.
And that cost us
And we
what
were
that year?
penalized.
That was a chunk.
We were penalized because of that, because we were not up to the 38%.
Yeah, but a taxpayer would say, we should have eaten that 300,000 versus levying up 1.5 million in taxes. I mean, they're saying we should have paid. How do you account for, if the market softens, which it is now, if the market softens, how do you, and sales don't happen, how do we account for values going down?
You do the same thing.
But if no sales are happening,
If no sales are happening, then there's no evidence that the market's going down. The only way there's evidence the market's going down is if you have sales.
Lower sales.
if the market softens, sales die out for 2 years, the valuations will never come down.
They should.
If we don't have enough sales, and if we think the market's going down and we don't have enough sales to make changes in this county, I'll start searching neighboring counties for sales.
Give me that term you used a while ago with the appraisal specialist that when the figures were being changed.
Sales chasing.
Yeah.
Sales chasing.
You see that was sort of going on in the county.
That's what our rural land appraiser said he thought was going on. I'm not going to make any assumptions, but it's possible. From the changes that I've had to make since I came in and seeing their previous ratios, I think it could have possibly been happening, but I don't know for sure. Because when you make changes, you're not supposed to make it to one property. That's in violation of the uniformity clause. You're supposed to change all like properties.
Because if you make it to just one property, what you're doing is rewarding that landowner until the sale, and then kind of punishing the new landowner, so to speak, or not just the new landowner. I mean, he or she's going to pay the new amount. What you're doing is, if you're rewarding that one person by not going up, you're not valuing everyone else. So everyone else is bearing the burden for them, as opposed to it being uniform.
If a house sells for $400,000, does that house market value go up to $400,000 upon that sale?
Not
No.
necessarily.
That would be sales chasing. We take a
Well, that's
pool.
market, but then
We take a pool of sales, get the average more or less, compare it to our values, and make adjustments to get our average close to just below the market average, And that's how we make our adjustments. We always try and stay slightly below market sales. And that particular house would change as much as, if that was a high sale, say another house just like it sold for 300,000, but this guy did real good. He got 400 for his, but these houses are identical. The change would be averaged between them, and that property would not go up to 400,000.
Well, when I bought the house on Union Street, I swapped two properties in two other counties, one for 110, one for 140, and that's what their values were, for 250. Hardy and Carolyn bought that house for like 100,000, and they had more than that, more than 250 in it when it's all said and done. When I went to appeal the value, because the value went up and the house next door sold for 100,000 less, and the old Gregory house sold for 60,000, and I put those in and I went to the appeal board. I was given this rigmarole, but it was very clear what had happened. And I was even challenged by a member of the board who's no longer there that he'd buy my house for whatever. Go there. But the bottom line is, and I said, well, I can't sell it. And I had a realtor who did a market analysis and showed that it was really about their value on the house was 225, and we were saying 250. We were trying to get it around, it really was 200 is what it would have probably sold for. That was 10 years ago. It sold for 259 10 years later. And that was after being on the market for 2 years. And my point was, trying to find someone to buy it. You can have all these nice things, and people say, well, that house is worth a lot more than that. Well, in the right place it is.
And to who?
Right.
Everybody don't want to keep a big house up.
Right, and if you've got that if you have the ability to have a $250,000 house in Dooley County at that time, it'd be more now, I guess, but at that time you could buy some land and build whatever you wanted. And so there was not a big market. So it gets into what the market is. And so my problem with that was, they were using comps from other counties that weren't even anywhere near close to it, and that's just a personal thing. But I think everyone takes taxes personal because it's your money, and in the great scheme of things, it all balanced out. But, what I hear with the sales chasing is that if that was going on, that benefited the few, but burdened the more.
You say burden, but if that person paid that for that price, why would they?
No, I'm not talking about I'm talking about back to the land stuff. I mean, if you got
same thing, if you buy a tract of land for $1 million, why wouldn't it be market valued at $1 million? You just paid that for it. Why would you think anything else about that?
Well, what was thought of the transaction I'm talking about is it was thought that it was a family transaction. People thought that it was a lot more than it was, and it wasn't. When it's all said and done, because the value of the sale necessarily is not the fair market value. There's all kinds of considerations that go into the sale of lands, the size of the tract, proximity, whether it's on a river, whether it's irrigated, all these other things that go into the value of it. And people, I don't know. I mean, is $1 million really a fair price for whatever you're talking about? Maybe, maybe not. And so if they accept the sales price on everything, then we don't need him at that point.
Yeah.
We just go off the sales price. So why is
but
it?
Then uniformity goes out the window, because you've got a $500,000 house right here that's valued at 200,000 because it never did sell. You never did change their value. But this one right next to it, that's exactly the same, sold. So now you got it valued at 500,000. That's where you lose uniformity. That's what happens with the sales chasing problem. All the properties in the county's value stayed low, other than the ones that sold.
So if I see a house listed on Union Street down here at $499,000 and it sells for that, look out.
Right.
It's gonna have a drastic effect.
Well, no, it's
It
gonna
won't?
take more than one.
Well,
It would have to
yeah,
be
yeah, but-
multiple sales.
Unless
We
it was
never-
sales chasing.
I won't even change an area unless I've got a good number of sales. That's why we didn't change some areas last year that did change this year, like Lily, we didn't change last year, and it changed this year.
I'm told that they're about to really expand in Living.
But we just had enough sales this year to actually make a
You
change.
got it wrong, I think.
Zoom out.
Dooley.
Supposedly, changing subject, but supposedly, Mr. David, the mayor of Doolin says she has been approached by somebody that wants to build 40 houses in the town of Doolin.
Awesome.
You know, we heard this about a year
As long
ago.
as they pay their permit fees.
Yeah.
Do they got one to do?
They ain't gonna have
No water.
No, it might be ground if it do, but in the water. But
Supply the water to.
I want to see it. I don't believe it till I see it.
But back to the, I think we all can agree the property tax program is complicated.
Yes.
And it appears the General Assembly just further complicates it every year.
that thing here really complicated.
Well,
I would-
exempt properties, when you keep adding to, by legislature, properties for various reasons for exemptions, you know what's gonna happen. So, I mean, it's complex,
Very.
very complex.
I would love to send out notices that tell everybody their values went down. That'd make my life so easy.
Yeah, because you
But-
one of the most, other than me, you one of the most hated person in the county.
No,
But,
they think all of us.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah.
but,
I tell them it's not
They
us.
ain't got nothing to do with it. Yeah,
Where
but
was that? I mean, they're an
they
independent.
got their own board, but they don't. People don't. They don't.
I know.
well, when they approach you, tell them to have their neighbors sell all their properties at half price and their values will go down. But that ain't gonna happen.
That ain't gonna happen. That's why I always tell me to call you.
All I have to rely on is sales. That's what I am mandated to go by. And that's, I mean, 8% overall is not a big increase, but I know areas got hit hard. But I have to make my changes by what I see in the sales, and that's what we do. Because we are mandated to keep our values in line with the sales.
And there's nothing in state law that says, all right, my value got increased last year, so therefore it can't get increased this year.
A lot of people think that,
I've heard that multiple times.
That
But there's
you
no
can't
state
do it.
law talking about areas either. We dictate the areas. I mean, what, so,
I want to see you. You're listening good.
Mine went up 33% last year, it went up 25% this year.
in what area are you?
Okay.
County.
County
The
The greater Lamb
I want you old man after hearing all y'all. I said, I need to sleep at night.
we went
I don't know.
and spoke with the Board of Education. Last year, we came before you and voiced our concerns for a number of classes of people, that it really is a burden. It's a burden on everybody to pay taxes. But some, I'd personally say more than others because of the limited income factor. But we went and we spoke with the Board of Education when they had their meetings, open to the public before they set their millage rate. There were about 6 people that night when we went. I don't know about the first meeting, how many people were there, but there were voices that were made to the Board of Education and concerns that were made. But we did try to cover them too. But as you know, they said it and that's it. So,
Yeah, y'all reduced the millage rate last
Yeah.
year. They didn't reduce theirs at all, and they're not this year either. It doesn't look like.
they didn't. They kept it the same.
They've already voted for the administrator this year?
I think so.
They kept it the same as last year.
Any other questions for Derek or Ms. Kay? Thank y'all.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you for doing what you do.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I learned a lot this morning, man.
And people approach you, tell them come see us and file an appeal. We'll come look at the property, see what we can do. A lot of these properties, there are adjustments I can make because they haven't been looked at in years and their depreciation hasn't been updated or in some cases buildings have been removed and nobody knew anything about it. So just send them to us. We'll work with them.
Okay. Thank you.
We had last year, we resolved all of them, but 7, I think, went to Board of Equalization. So
Who's the Board of Equalization?
Margaret,
Perfect.
Perfect.
yeah,
Uh,
Clark, what's his?
Earl Clark.
Al
Junior.
Willis.
Al Willis has just been appointed
Oh,
and accepted. And we used to have 2 alternates. So, if some could not attend, there'd be somebody to fill in.
The grand jury appoints the Board of Equalization
Okay, that's what I say. I didn't know.
to keep politics completely out of it.
And one thing the Board of Assessors does, we don't have to hear, appeals. But we added that policy in that anybody that wanted to come before our board first, before they go to the BOE, and if we can resolve it, if there's any way, we will. If not, then they can go to the Board of Equalization or choose the other options that are available. But we try to take an extra effort to help resolve the people because we know that taxes are a burden. And we pay taxes too.
Oh, y'all aren't exempt.
No.
All right, and also in the process of get my thoughts here. The digest, the digest has to be approved by the state before taxes can be actually levied and the bills can be sent out. And you have to have, there's a threshold, you can only have X% of parcels under appeal to submit the digest. I don't remember what that is.
I think it was 8%.
In the past, that never has been an issue. Hopefully it won't be this year either. But that is something that, if there were 10% parcels under appeal, we can't submit the digest till that percentage gets below whatever the percentage is. And just remind everybody, taxes are historically due December 20th. That's the earliest they can be due. For them to be due by December 20th, the bills have to be mailed by October 20th. So there's a lot of steps. The digest has to be approved by the state. The millage rates have to be set weeks ahead of October 20th. So there's a lot of stuff that has to be done between now and then. But we're waiting right now. I'm assuming we're waiting to the end of the appeal process to have some more accurate preliminary digest figures before we can start even thinking about submitting the digest.
Yes. September 1st, I believe, I have to send the digest to the tax commissioner.
Or either she has to request an extension from the state, which historically we have requested extension. That's usually not a big deal to get the first extension. So.
What we try to do is get as many of these appeals resolved as we can before we.
To have as accurate preliminary digest as possible.
Yes, sir.
That will benefit everybody to be as accurate as possible.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Your last date of appeal is July
30th.
July 30th.
And somebody that wants to appeal, they can come to your office and get a form.
They can mail a letter. They can write it on a napkin. By
Just
law,
make sure it
by-
gets to him.
by law, we have to accept it.
But you do have forms at your office available.
Right,
All right.
and they can print them too, if I'm not mistaken.
On the website, there's a link to the form.
They can print them.
They can print if they want it.
All right.
Before you go, Kay, give us an update on Larry.
He's doing well.
Yeah.
He's got 12 heart stents right now.
Wow.
But he's doing well. Thank you for asking.
And you know,
Thank
he
you for
hit
the
me, I
prayers.
was sitting there the other day, I said, that is 3 heart situations right there in your neighborhood. Bam,
Mhm.
bam, bam.
Mhm.
Within 5 houses.
But they determined that John's was not heart
Oh,
related.
really?
Mhm.
Okay, good.
So,
Who else?
David Kay.
watch out, Bert.
We're on the other side of Highway 9.
Oh, okay. You're covered there.
I don't think that protects you. But you go with that if you want to. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
John, you got your appeal letter ready, man?
Oh, I've been sitting mine.